Historical context. One of the biggest developments of the 20th century was group thought, either through fascism or socialism, two quite opposing projects. To put it very crudely, fascism promoted survival of the fittest ideology, while socialism promoted survival of the weakest. Fascism wanted to cull the weak to make space for the strong, while socialism wanted to cull the strong to uplift the dispossessed. Fascism was a more masculine approach that the fittest should survive, while socialism was a more feminine approach that everyone was equal. But both ideologies tapped into our social psychology or tribal thinking. Are we psychologically wired to be tribal and conform with others? As we saw, fascism and socialism united and mobilized a huge number of people in Europe and Asia. Or are we really free thinkers and autonomous individuals as seen with democracies? It turns out there's a push and pull between the individual and societal force, which results in social change. Origin of social psychology. The German philosopher George Hegel argued that the self depends on the existence of others. In other words, a solid idea of the self cannot exist without the existence of other selves within a group or society. He famously argued that we are the product of history. For example, an ancient Greek person is far different compared to an 18th century German in their outlook, sensibilities, and preferences, which make up his historical identity. So the root of social psychology can be traced to Hegel, which trickled through Marx and later French school of deconstructionism and postmodernism. Jacques Lacan, born in 1901 and died in 1981, a French psychologist, further argued that the individual is created through the language of the other. In other words, a solid self doesn't exist outside the other. So the self can only exist within a group setting. Let's imagine you're the only person in the world. Nobody gave birth to you and nobody came in contact with you. It would be very hard to have a sense of self-identity. A single God in the universe perhaps experiences the same identity crisis. We know ourselves in relations to others. We develop characters because we constantly rub against other people. The first group we encounter is our own family. Virginia Satir, who was born in 1916 and died in 1988, was an American psychologist who argued that family is where we develop personality and role. Therefore, it's like a factory that makes us. Within a family, we grow as we bump into each other, and so we shape each other's personality by feedback, criticism, collusion, and so forth until we establish a solid self. It's like a pebble that is crushed in the waves, and after years and centuries, it loses all its rough edges and becomes smooth, and we call it pebble. The same is true about us. A totally unruly animal baby turns into a law-abiding citizen after years of education and socialization. But at the heart of it is a push and pull. What is pull?